Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthy Hong Kong. Welcome to the second part of our series with Professor Ellen Langer of Harvard University, Mindfulness Part 1. Professor Langer is described as the mother of mindfulness since she was an early pioneer in the field and studied mindfulness from a Western scientific perspective in the 1970s. In the previous video, Professor Langer talked about some of her fascinating studies showing the power of possibility. Opening our mind to what's possible can lead to better health whatever our age. In this video, she will delve more deeply into mindfulness, how conscious awareness of and focus on the present moment is important. With that, let me start the video. So in Counterclockwise, you talk about, so one of the things you talk about the power of words and like priming. So if you prime people with kind of negative, like forgetful or whatever, then they become forgetful, right? So I was wondering, I mean, is this something we can use in our daily lives?
We can self-prime ourselves, so let me use a non-aging example, but we can find an aging equivalent. So it turns out that there's a stereotype that women are not good in math. Now, there's also a stereotype that Asians are good in math. So we have a mindset, right? So now imagine you're an Asian woman and you're going to be taking a math test. If you see yourself when you're taking the test as a woman, you're probably going to do less well than if you call up the mindset of being Asian. And so if we're doing something and we think of ourselves as 80 years old, we're probably not going to do as well, depending on what the task is, as if we reflect on how we did these things when we were younger, or we see other aspects of ourselves. You were a teacher, so you call up your teacher mindset, and you will be able to do certain things better. This is, it's true for all of us, that anything that we're exposed to can be understood in multiple ways. And the problem is that our mindlessness leads us to see things in a single-minded way. And however we see that will then determine what we experience. So if you see something as impending and negative, certainly you're going to be stressed. But prediction is largely an illusion. And so if you said to yourself, what are 3 reasons this thing might not occur? I might not become senile. I might not lose my job. My wife or husband might not leave me, whatever. I might not, so on. You give yourself 3 or 5 reasons why that thing might not occur. So then you think, well, first I thought it was definitely going to occur. Now maybe it'll occur, maybe it won't. Now let's assume it does occur. What are 3 or 5 ways that that actually is an advantage? And so then what happens, being stressed, stress requires a belief that something is going to happen, and when it does, it's going to be awful. But now you're in a situation where maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, and if it happens, it'll cut both ways. And so then one doesn't have to spend their time worrying about some potential future event. So the words we use, the way we talk to ourselves, controls the whole ball game, essentially. When you think you know, you don't pay any attention. All of my work on mindfulness is designed to show people the power in uncertainty. So I often begin my talks and I'll say to people, okay, how much, Richard, is 1 + 1?
Right.
I dare you to answer, Richard. How much is 1 + 1?
Okay, well, it's 2, but...
Okay. Now, because we're taught 1 + 1 is 2, that now many people would just tune out and what is she talking about and so on. But it turns out 1 + 1 isn't always 2. If you take 1 wad of chewing gum and you add it to 1 wad of chewing gum, 1 + 1 is 1. 1 pile of laundry plus 1 pile of laundry, 1 + 1 is 1. In fact, in the real world, rather than the world of mathematical abstractions, 1 + 1 probably doesn't equal 2 as often as it does. All right, so when you see the things you thought you knew best you don't know, then you tune in. If you knew or thought you knew what I was going to say next, there'd be no reason to listen. If you recognize that everything is always changing, everything looks different from different perspectives, then you pay attention. Your attention naturally goes to the things you don't know. and you naturally stay away from the things you're sure of. And because everything is inherently uncertain, everything is new and everything is potentially exciting. People seem to think that being bored or being stressed are a function of events outside of them. But both of them are just a function of the way we talk to ourselves, the language we use when we're talking to ourselves about our current circumstances. So, for example, at some point I'm going to go back and be teaching, and I can say, oh, I've done this for 40 years, same old, the kids, they're all the same age, they've not been here before, they're all scared. I can go like that. I just, why am I doing this? Or I could go to the other way and I could say, these are kids from different backgrounds. It's been a very long time since I was 18 years old. Who knows what they're thinking, what they care about, if they'll appreciate the examples that I give, if they'll, and I can get myself stressed. All right, so the point is, when you're bored, you have to find the novelty. When you're stressed, you have to see the way it's familiar. So the point is, again, that the world is potentially complex. There's so many ways of understanding. The ways we choose to understand the world will dictate how we feel about it and ourselves. If we look for the ways we're successful, we're going to feel good. If we look for the ways we're unsuccessful, we're going to feel bad. And sometimes those, interestingly, are the very same instances. So, for example, if I see myself, I can see myself as gullible because I am very gullible. All right, then I can feel bad about myself. But the reason I'm gullible is because I'm very trusting. And I see myself as trusting, then I feel good about myself. Oh, I can see myself as inconsistent and then not like myself very much. Or I can see myself as flexible. And then I'm very pleased with myself, and so on. So it turns out every description of our behavior has an equally potent but oppositely valenced alternative. Every good is bad, every bad is good. It all depends on the way we do it. Everything we experience. So let's say, Richard, you and I go out to eat, and the food is wonderful. That's great, a big success. We go out to eat and the food is awful. That's great, I'll eat less so I won't gain weight. So the world I've created for myself is, I'm just happy.
Yes.
And it's a nice way to be.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That is the aim. And yeah, I guess just one last kind of comment on this area. So, I think we spend a lot of time trying to live healthily and diet, and we do exercise and take supplements and all this to try and extend the longevity, the health span. But I think the mindset is really important, and I guess you would agree with that. It's like you have to think young.
It's not just it's not just the mindset, as said. It's the degree to which we're mindful, and the more mindful we are, the healthier we'll be. When you're mindful, you're alive. People recognize that and find you more appealing. The neurons are firing. You're energized. And I think that if you believe exercise is good for you, exercise will be good for you. If you don't believe exercise is good for you, it'll probably be less good for you. The food you eat, that if you don't tell yourself you can't have that piece of chocolate, so then you eat three times as much as you otherwise might. You just, easier with yourself. You allow yourself and you pay attention to your body. And when your body is full, you're full. And then you move on to something else. If you're mindful, you're not going to be stressed. Because again, stress is not a function of events. It's a function of the view you take of an event. So you become more mindful, then all that stressful eating that so many of us do is eliminated. And so while all of these things might be important, to my mind, our minds are probably the most important ingredient in all of this. Our minds are also choosing which activities we do and how we do them and so on. So that has to be correct. But I'm saying independent of exercise and nutrition, which are both fine, we have control over all aspects of our lives.
Yes. Yeah, and that is, I think, a good segue. So now I'd like to kind of talk about mindfulness more generally.
Yeah,
And you've studied mindfulness from, as you said, like a Western scientific perspective since the 70s, which is a lot
yes.
earlier than kind of the mindfulness revolution that we're kind of having. So, and you're described as the mother of mindfulness. So could you
Yes.
tell us what was the origin of your study? And
Well,
yeah,
okay, that I already described the first nursing home study where
yeah,
we gave people choices and they live longer. And so in thinking about that, why does choice making have this effect? That led, that when you're making a choice, when you're really trying to make it, you're noticing different things about the alternatives. And it's that active noticing that in fact is responsible for the longevity effects. So we replicated the nursing home studies where we taught people to be mindful. Now, again, although very early on I did some work on meditation, all of the work I'm discussing with you now is mindfulness without meditation. It is so simple, it almost defies belief. By simply noticing new things, the neurons are firing. That noticing of new things puts you in the present, makes you sensitive to context and perspective. The feeling is feeling engaged. And the consequences of simply noticing are enormous. So we found in those replications of the nursing home studies, people live longer. When you're actively noticing, people find you more appealing. When you're actively noticing, the products you produce are better appreciated by other people. And I can give you examples of all of this. So it's good for your health. It's good for your relationships. It's good for your work. In fact, because it's energy begetting rather than consuming, which I'll explain to you in a moment, I can see no reason why one wouldn't choose to be mindful virtually all of the time. If you were going to come visit me now, so you're in Hong Kong, I don't know if you or your audience has ever been to Cape Cod in Massachusetts, but if you came to visit me now, I'm in Provincetown and you've never been here, you get off that plane and you're aware. You're expecting it to be brand new, so you notice everything. And so the reason I mention that is that you can see that this mindfulness feels good. It feels good and it's good for you. Now, meditation is a very different process. Meditation is a practice. Mindfulness, as I studied, is not a practice. It's a way of being. Once you recognize that you don't know, you naturally tune in. And when you naturally tune in, it feels good, everything is new, and the world becomes exciting again. And we have, again, as you mentioned, 40 years of research to back all of this up. So let me give you an example of a simple study. We had symphony musicians. For many people, being in an orchestra is a high status occupation. But yet they're playing the same pieces over and over and over again. So some of these musicians are bored out of their minds. So we take different orchestras and we teach half of them to be mindful. And we say, make it new in very subtle ways that only you would know. And those ways that they're playing new have to be subtle because they're playing classical music, not jazz. All right. And then we record the pieces. The groups that are more mindless, we tell them, remember a time you played this piece where you enjoyed your performance and just replicate it. So the musicians are playing mindfully or mindlessly. We record the pieces. We play them for people who know nothing about the study. And people overwhelmingly prefer the mindfully played piece. And the musicians prefer playing this way. So there's the way our mindfulness seems to leave its imprint on what we're doing. So we're enjoying doing it. We do it better. People think more highly of us. In fact, this mindfulness is the essence of charisma. It's the essence of people recognizing our authenticity and clearly finding us more attractive. That when you're mindful, what happens is you're able to take advantage of opportunities to which you'd otherwise be blind and avert the danger not yet arisen. So all the accidents that we have, much of the forgetfulness that we go through, all are a function of our mindlessness.
Thank you all for watching. The more mindful we are, the more mindful we will be. When you are mindful, you are alive. A beautiful quote from Professor Langer. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please do hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell button for new video release notifications. It encourages us to continue to create more videos about anti-aging and extending healthy lifespan. Thank you for your kind support. Mindfulness 2 will be released soon, so please stay tuned. I wish you all well and will speak to you soon.